Picture this, a small, charming town, streets adorned with red, white, and blue, and the sweet scent of barbecue lingering in the air. It was the 4th of July, and my little town was gearing up for the grandest celebration ever. But this isn't your typical patriotic tale. It's a story I'll never forget, one that turned the joyous holiday into a night of terror. The excitement in the air was palpable as I strolled down Main Street. Families lined the streets, kids waving mini American flags, and the local marching band tuning their instruments. Fireworks stalls had sprung up like mushrooms, each competing for your attention with signs proclaiming their explosive offerings. My friends and I had planned to gather at the town square later to watch the fireworks light up the night sky. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the festivities began in earnest. The carnival rides whirred to life, casting a kaleidoscope of colors into the evening. The Ferris wheel, with its towering silhouette, was a beacon of promise against the darkening sky. The cotton candy machines spun their sugary clouds, and the smell of funnel cakes filled the air. It was the quintessential 4th of July celebration, and my heart swelled with patriotic pride. As I wandered through the throngs of people, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unity, the kind that can only come from a shared love for one's country. This was the heart of our town, where people from all walks of life came together to celebrate the land of the free. Eventually, I found my friends gathered around a picnic table under the glow of the streetlights. Laughter, reminiscing, and the smell of grilled burgers and hot dogs filled the air. As the sun's last rays vanished, we turned our attention to the fireworks show, our expressions filled with childlike wonder. The first burst of color illuminated the night, and the oohs and ahs from the crowd added to the enchantment. For a while, we were lost in the breathtaking spectacle, our eyes trained on the sky as it came alive with a dazzling display of patriotism. But then the air changed. It was a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, but it sent a shudder down my spine. The crowd's cheers faded into a disconcerting silence. The fireworks kept going, but their bright colors seemed to grow darker, more sinister. I couldn't help but glance around, a creeping unease settling over me. People in the crowd had stopped clapping and cheering. They stood there, their faces expressionless, staring up at the fireworks like they were in a trance. Something was horribly wrong. I turned to my friends, but their faces mirrored the same eerie detachment. They too stood frozen, their eyes locked on the night sky. Panic clawed at me, but I couldn't understand what was happening. As the final fireworks exploded in a deafening crescendo, a deep sense of dread took hold. The brilliant display of colors was replaced by an ominous pitch-black void. The crowd erupted in chaos, people screaming and scrambling for cover. But my friends and I remained immobile, unable to break free from the strange trance that had fallen over us. In the midst of the commotion, I heard a whisper, soft and insidious, like a sinister promise. It echoed in my mind, weaving through my thoughts, and I could almost make out the words. "Embrace the night." My heart pounded in my chest as I realized I was the only one who heard it. In a desperate attempt to snap my friends out of their trance, I grabbed their arms, shouting their names, but they remained unresponsive. It was then that I noticed a shadowy figure emerging from the midst of the chaos. It was tall and gaunt, its body a writhing, shifting mass of darkness. As it approached, the whispers in my mind grew louder, filling me with dread. I knew I had to break the spell that had fallen over my friends and me, and my mind raced for a solution. The figure in the darkness was drawing nearer, and I could feel its malevolent presence closing in. Then I remembered the small American flag I had in my pocket, a symbol of the freedom and unity we had been celebrating just moments ago. With trembling hands, I pulled it out and waved it frantically, shouting the Pledge of Allegiance at the top of my lungs. As the words left my lips, a brilliant light erupted from the flag, pushing back the darkness. The that had ensnared us. The figure recoiled, its form disintegrating into tendrils of black smoke. I could feel its grip on my mind loosen, and one by one, my friends snapped out of their trance. We stumbled back from the square, our hearts still racing, and watched as the dark entity dissipated into the night. The rest of the crowd slowly began to recover, confusion and fear etched on their faces. In the end, the 4th of July celebration continued, albeit with a subdued atmosphere. The fireworks resumed, and the cheers, though more hesitant, filled the night sky. But for me and my friends, the memory of that night would never fade. As we looked up at the brilliant bursts of color, I couldn't help but wonder about the true nature of the entity that had tried to claim us. It was a chilling reminder that even in the midst of joyous celebrations, there could be darkness lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to engulf us. The flag, a symbol of freedom, had been our salvation, a reminder that the strength of unity and patriotism could overcome even the most insidious of threats. You ever experience a 4th of July celebration gone totally off the rails? Well, I have, and let me tell you, it's a story that'll chill your bones. The memory of that fateful night still haunts my dreams, and I've got to get it off my chest. It all started out as your typical Independence Day celebration in our small, picturesque town. The sun was shining, and the air was alive with anticipation. The streets were lined with colorful banners and fluttering flags, and the scent of grilled hot dogs wafted through the air. Families gathered in the park, kids giggling with sparklers in their hands, and adults swapping stories and cold beers. I was there with my closest friends, and we were all set for a day of festivities. We'd staked out a spot near the stage, where the local band was gearing up for a live performance. Laughter and chatter filled the air, and for a while, it seemed like a perfect, all-American celebration. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the crowd swelled in anticipation of the fireworks display. The sky turned to shades of deep orange and pink, and the first pops and sizzles of fireworks filled the air. The vibrant explosions of color overhead mirrored the jubilant atmosphere on the ground. I remember thinking that this was the essence of small-town America, and I felt fortunate to be part of it. However, as the night wore on and the fireworks continued, something strange began to happen. The cheers of the crowd grew louder, and the spectators more and more frenzied. The air was filled with a strange electricity, an excitement that bordered on madness. I looked around at my friends, and they too had fallen under the strange spell. Their eyes were wild, their smiles forced, and they joined in the raucous cheers that echoed through the park. It was as if the crowd was being whipped into a collective frenzy, and I couldn't help but feel like I was caught up in something I couldn't quite understand. The fireworks display itself grew increasingly chaotic. The explosions were louder and more aggressive, the colors more blinding. The sky was a riot of lights and smoke, and it seemed like the world around us was spinning out of control. My heart raced, and a sense of dread washed over me. I tried to leave, to escape the madness that had taken over the celebration, but the crowd had become a seething, writhing mass of humanity. People pushed and shoved, their faces twisted in anger and euphoria. It was like they were caught in a trance, and nothing could break their frenzied state. That's when I noticed something even more unsettling. The fireworks, once beautiful and awe-inspiring, had turned into grotesque shapes in the sky. They twisted and contorted, taking on nightmarish forms. It was as if the very essence of the celebration had been corrupted, and it filled me with a sense of impending doom. In the midst of the chaos, I spotted a figure in the distance, a man standing on a makeshift platform, his arms outstretched. He was shouting words I couldn't quite make out, but his voice cut through the madness, rallying the crowd into a frenzy. I knew I had to get out of there, but the crowd had become a tidal wave of madness, and I was trapped in its grip. The violence escalated as people began to turn on each other, fists flying and angry shouts filling the air. It was a descent into madness that I had never imagined. As I struggled to break free, I heard the crackle of flames. A small fire had ignited, spreading rapidly through the chaos. Panic swept through the crowd as people scrambled to escape the encroaching inferno. I pushed and fought my way through the sea of bodies, desperate to reach safety. Amid the chaos, I lost sight of my friends, and I couldn't help but wonder if they had been swallowed by the madness. The flames continued to spread, and the acrid smoke filled the air. I reached the edge of the park, gasping for breath, my clothes smudged with soot and sweat. As I looked back at the scene of chaos and destruction, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of loss. The celebration of our nation's independence had turned into a nightmarish descent into madness. The very essence of the holiday had been corrupted, and it was a stark reminder of the fragile line between celebration and chaos. As I walked away from the park, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over me. The memories of that night would haunt me forever, a grim reminder that even in the most joyous of celebrations, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. It was a 4th of July I would never forget, and a stark reminder that the line between celebration and chaos is thinner than we'd like to believe. You know, there's something unsettling about the way a small American town comes alive on the 4th of July. It's like a Norman Rockwell painting, but with secrets lurking in every shadow. That year, in my little corner of the world, we decided to throw a big celebration. The sky was a deep inky blue, the stars glistening like diamonds, and the smell of barbecue wafted through the warm summer air. I always loved the 4th of July, but this year was different. I had recently moved to Willowbrook, a picturesque town in the heart of New England. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where the sense of community was strong. But that night, as I stood among the cheerful crowd, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My friends and I had set up our folding chairs on the edge of the town square, right next to the towering oak tree adorned with fairy lights. The band played toe-tapping tunes, kids ran around with sparklers, and the aroma of sizzling hot dogs filled the air. It should have been perfect, but a sense of foreboding gnawed at my insides. As I watched the fireworks burst into dazzling displays of color, I noticed something strange. The people around me were clapping and cheering, but their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. It was as if they were performing a well-rehearsed act, and I was the only one who had missed the script. My friend Sarah noticed my unease. "You all right?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a bit overwhelmed by the festivities, I guess." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. The way the moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the town square, made me shiver. I stood up and excused myself, needing some fresh air. Walking through the quiet streets of Willowbrook, I couldn't help but notice that there were no other signs of life. No barking dogs, no laughter from children playing in backyards, just an unsettling silence. It was as if the entire town had gathered in one place, leaving the rest of Willowbrook in eerie desolation. I turned a corner and found myself in front of a small old-fashioned church. Its windows were dimly lit, and the flickering candles inside cast eerie, dancing shadows on the walls. Curiosity got the better of me, and I cautiously pushed open the creaky wooden door. The air inside was heavy with the scent of incense. As I stepped further inside, I saw a congregation of people, all dressed in traditional attire. They chanted in an unfamiliar language, and their eyes were fixed on a large, ornate altar. On it lay an intricate, jewel-encrusted chalice that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. My heart pounded in my chest, and a shiver ran down my spine. I wanted to flee, but something held me in place. That's when I noticed the flickering flames in the candles were casting unusual, grotesque shadows on the walls. Demonic forms danced and writhed. and I realized with a sudden bone-chilling certainty that I had stumbled upon something unholy. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it all. What was happening in this quaint, idyllic town? Were these people involved in some sinister cult? How had I ended up in the middle of their dark ritual? Panic welled up inside me, but I knew I had to get out. I retreated quietly, careful not to draw any attention, and slipped out of the church. My footsteps echoed loudly in the empty streets as I made my way back to the town square. The celebration was still in full swing, but now I saw it for what it truly was. The cheerfulness, the laughter, the music, it was all a facade. I couldn't unsee the demonic truth that lay beneath. I approached Sarah, my voice trembling as I whispered to her, "We need to leave now." She frowned, but my urgency must have been evident, because she grabbed my arm, and we discreetly made our way to our car. As we drove away from Willowbrook, I couldn't help but glance back at the town square one last time. Fireworks still painted the night sky, but the once charming scene now felt like a nightmare. The truth was almost too horrifying to comprehend. The people of Willowbrook, my friends included, were not what they appeared to be. They were demons, hiding in plain sight, celebrating their sinister secrets on the 4th of July. I felt a mix of dread and disbelief that the picturesque town I had chosen to call home was concealing such a malevolent truth. As the town faded in the rearview mirror, I couldn't help but wonder about the other towns across the country, each with its own 4th of July celebrations. Were they just like Willowbrook, concealing unimaginable horrors behind the veneer of patriotism and community? It was a chilling thought, one that would forever haunt my Independence Day celebrations.